IWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, June 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, mostly cloudy in Ottawa, feeling like 27 with the humidex, 21 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. A proposed pilot project for responding to mental health-related calls comes to a committee today. City News reporter Chris Curries joins us with the details.
It's been discussed for weeks, but now debate begins at City Hall, specifically at the Community Services Committee today. The plan would see a new emergency hotline complementary to 911, but for mental health related calls. And experts in the field would be available to respond 24/7 rather than police. Those who had a hand in creating the project say it's what the community wanted, and police say this will be helpful. There are critics, though, who point out how the police could still be involved. Racialized communities say they should not at all. It defeats the purpose, while counselors and other community groups believe that police should be complementary to those mental health professionals. Chris Curry, City News.
Now, your help is needed to find a missing person last seen in the Canada area yesterday. Police say Joshua Masson went missing yesterday before 6 in the afternoon. Now, we have a picture and full description on our site of the missing man at ottawa.citynews.ca. Now, if you do see him, you're asked to contact Ottawa Police or Crime Stoppers. City News time 10:02. Now, taking a look at your weather for today. Here's City News meteorologist Jesse Uppel.
We have much better air quality in the area thanks to wet weather moving through, and we hang on to some unsettled conditions through the afternoon and evening. The chance of showers and thunderstorms continues. A guaranteed high of 24 degrees, a humidex near 31, and winds remain out of the south 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. Later tonight, cloudy with showers down to 17 degrees. Today's guaranteed high 24.
22 right now, feeling more like 28. In Ottawa, it's 23. In Smiths Falls, feeling like 28. Now, Canada's health minister is in Toronto today to talk about a new ban on cosmetic animal testing. City's Caitlin Lee with the details.
Minister of Health Jean-Yves Duclos expected to speak this morning in Toronto following the passing of Bill C-47, prohibiting the sale of cosmetics that rely on new animal testing data to establish product safety and false or misleading labeling pertaining to the testing of cosmetics on animals. It was years in the making. Canada joins over 40 countries around the world in doing so. Humane Society International among the organizations praising the move, saying Canadian consumers can finally be rest assured the cosmetics they purchase have not come as a result of animal suffering. The chief ethics officer for Lush Cosmetics North America saying Canada has been put on the right side of history. Today's press conference will take place at a Lush factory in Toronto. Reporting live, Caitlin Lee, City News.
Now, Canada's grocery sector needs better competition to help keep food prices down. That's according to a new report from the Competition Bureau that is calling on the feds and the provincial government to take action. City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney has the details.
In this highly anticipated report, the Competition Bureau says concentration in the grocery industry has increased in recent years to just a handful of players, and the largest grocers are increasing the amount of money they make on food sales. Canada's three largest grocers, Loblaw, Sobeys and Metro, collectively reporting more than $100 billion in sales and $3.6 billion in profits last year alone. The latest inflation data shows food prices keep rising, with another 9% jump over the last month to your grocery bill, something Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre addressed while speaking with reporters in New Brunswick.
And 1.5 million going to food banks every single month because food prices under Trudeau have increased so dramatically.
So the solution to this, according to the Competition Bureau, is to bring in new players and independent grocers to keep prices in check. It's calling on the federal and provincial governments to come up with a grocery innovation strategy, increase supports for those new players in our market, including international grocery chains, and to consider accessible and harmonized unit pricing requirements to try and help Canadians compare grocery prices. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Sam Laprade. Thank you so much for being with us here on City News. We'll introduce you to many community members and different perspectives in our community. We're going to be talking about sleep a little bit. I need more sleep. I don't know about you. We're going to get some information about our sleep patterns. We're also going to spend some time today with Wilson Lowe, counselor for Barhaven East. We're going to be talking about that on-demand service for OC Transpo. I'm anxious to see what Wilson thinks of this. We're also going to speak with Caroline McKenzie from the Glebe Community Association regarding Lansdowne 2.0. We have lots coming for you today. We're already getting ready as well for our lunch today. We're going to be talking about the new mayor-elect, Olivia Chow in Toronto. She was elected last night, and certainly an interesting turn of events for Toronto. We're going to be following that story closely as well. But first, I wanted to get connected this morning with Peter Tilley, CEO of the Ottawa Mission. Hi, Peter.
Good morning, Sam.
Thanks for spending time with us today. And of course, Katie Burkholder-Harris is here as well, Executive Director for the Alliance to End Homelessness. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Sam, and hi, Peter.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Katie.
Thank you so much, everyone, being here today. Today, we're going to be talking about the opioid crisis, but Katie, we're going to be talking about it from a different perspective, and of course, that's the perspective of youth, and particularly youth that find themselves homeless. Give us a sense of what's happening on the streets.
Well, about 20% of people experiencing homelessness are young people, and a big contributing factor to that is people exiting the child welfare system. So a lot of what can happen, I've certainly heard stories. I used to be the coordinator for Away Home Ottawa, which was a youth-focused strategy on ending homelessness. And what we heard consistently in our research was this experience of, it's my 18th birthday, or the day before my 18th birthday, I'm kind of being told that I need to leave, the youth housing situation I'm in because sort of the funding is cut. People are not connected to the foster care system in the same way. So that kind of transition, it really is people falling into homelessness. And we know when people are vulnerable, when people are in distress, we know that people may use opioids, and not having housing and the stability of housing is definitely a major contributor to that.
And we know, Peter, as well, that that many people will prey on those individuals that are very vulnerable in the community, and they know exactly sort of how to get them pulled into this drug cycle as well. How big of a problem is that?
Oh, it's a huge problem, Sam. It's when we created our housing department in 2019, Katie was part of that as a board member of the Ottawa Mission. We certainly had a focus on not only housing focus, but the diversion aspect. And the key to the diversion aspect is if youth have been left their home environment for whatever reason, you're no longer going to smoke pot under our roof type situation or whatever it may be, is a quick try and reconnect with the parents, because make them realize youth coming into the homeless sector, whether encampment, sleeping rough, or into the shelter system, they're going to be under the influence of some very hardened people, some very hardened cases, and that's not a great alternative, always that influence, especially as, they look at gateway drugs that go on to harder drugs, and, we're just seeing this recent report that's come out on the damage of those drugs, especially when they're laced with fentanyl. So not a good option for youth who are vulnerable. Katie mentioned, too, some of them who have just been moved from one system to another and now moving into this system. Not the best option. If we can reconnect them back with other options rather than moving into the shelter or the homeless situation, is always a better alternative.
Absolutely. And Katie, we know that once somebody's in the system, really hard to get out of that system. There's lots of different programs to try and find housing, but layering on this addiction must be challenging for you as well, to try and work with some of these youth.
Absolutely. And, this is an older stat, but I do remember at one point back in sort of 2015, 16, and I think it's probably gotten worse, it's about 2 weeks before a youth becomes kind of entrenched in the shelter system. So you have this very short window that you need to support somebody to get rehoused as quickly as possible and get them the supports they need. And if you don't, it tends to go downhill from there. So a really key piece is ensuring that we get young people housed. And I think another piece is, so many folks who are adults who experience homelessness had their first experience of homelessness before they were 18 years old. So, this is something that can become a pattern because people are so unstable in their life. And, before you can, think about not using a substance or getting well in some way, or if you are somebody who uses substances, but really it's about valuing life and not having people die. You need the stability of housing to do that.
Absolutely. And we know, we spoke a number of times, Peter, that the core of all of this in many cases is trauma. Talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing on the streets, knowing that we've come through such a difficult time and many people have found themselves without home and maybe without connection as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's, just somebody I was trying to help this weekend, counsel with some of their addiction issues. The traumas that you see in individuals like this or in many of the youth is hard for many people to imagine. The broken homes, the lack of proper parenting in the home environment, and just some of the situations these youth have had to deal with that by the time they're 14 or 15, they're whether they're asked to leave or they're trying to get out of the housing environment, and that places them into such a vulnerable position. So many possible good years ahead of them, and yet they're already in a situation where they're running from their trauma, from their past trauma, and they're medicating and numbing to deal with that past trauma, and thus begins the vicious cycle. And hopefully one that doesn't end up in death, as we're seeing again in this recent report about the number of youth who have died from opioid overdose. It's just so troubling when I read that, just to think, whether but for the grace of God go I or many others who had they been placed in such an environment with limited options other than to escape in one way or another.
And Katie, we know that there's lots of discussion right now. Actually, today at committee, there's going to be a proposal brought forward to implement sort of a mental health strategy regarding maybe staff going and responding to mental health crisis as opposed to police. So it's a kind of a collaboration here. How much do you think that this type of information, knowing how many kids are experiencing this opioid crisis at this point, and kids and adults alike are dying on the streets, how much do you think will be impacted if we were able to have some resources, particularly regarding mental health?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think those resources are critical. I used to do frontline mental health work, and it was so frustrating that somebody would be in crisis. We'd go to the hospital, they'd stay for 24 hours, and then they'd go back to the community without, long-term supports, maybe be on a waiting list for, additional supports. But I couldn't meet them in that moment with the thing that they needed. And I think it's really good to see the mental health report coming out and what's going to be debated at council or committee today. But I think a key part is, are we addressing the right problem? And the right problem is not focusing on individual failing, and that's how we often think about it. It's focusing on the system that doesn't enable somebody to be able to recover and have hope and thrive. So we need to tackle the system piece of this, and if that's the direction that we're moving, great, and I hope that that's what comes from this.
I suspect I'll be speaking with you both again soon. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Sam, as always.
Appreciate it. Peter Tilley, CEO of the Ottawa Mission. Katie Burkholder-Harris, Executive Director for the Alliance to End Homelessness. The opioid story, unfortunately, continues. When we come back, Wilson Lowe will be here, councillor for Barrhaven East. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
If you're facing Alzheimer's disease or dementia, you don't have to do it alone. There are people and resources that can help, and we'll connect you to them. Alzheimer's Society of Ontario. Our connections matter.
I'm a singer-songwriter from Six Nations, and I've been writing songs about my experience, and with that being said, it's helped me hold hope in my heart in following my dreams and being resilient to everyday Indigenous battles.
Competition between spirit, earth, and wind, let me tell you now.
This song in particular, The Shiner, is a special song that I wrote for my grandfather. He was a snow snake maker, and that is a Haudenosaunee winter sport. It's my job to educate and to share, and the music allows me to do that.
He'll be shining snow snakes and mudcats to the end of his days.
Are you low on food? Struggling to pay the bills? Overwhelmed by life's challenges? When you need support but don't know where to turn, just dial 211. 211 connects you to the programs or services near you.
211, how can I help you?
211, help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We're going to be speaking with a representative from the Glebe Community Association just after the 10:30 news today regarding Lansdowne 2.0. There are many concerns about this particular property, and I have to be honest with you, in the last couple of weeks, I've had more people when I'm out and about at different events mention this project to me more than any other project. So lots of people weighing in on Lansdowne 2.0. Carolyn McKenzie's going to tell us what she thinks just after the 10:30 news today. I wanted to head to Barrhaven East, and speak with Wilson Lowe, the councillor. Hello, Wilson.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time today. How are you enjoying being a councillor?
I'm enjoying it very much. I'm at a point now where I can schedule in some personal time every day, so that's kind of nice.
Well, there you go. That's a bonus for sure. I know how hard you've worked to get there. You've got lots of opinions on what's happening in our city, particularly regarding the on-demand service for OC Transpo. How do you feel about this particular issue, Wilson?
I think it's a great proposal. We have, our travel patterns have changed throughout the pandemic, and many of those changes have kind of solidified and become a part of our lives now. And the way that a lot of our city is built also doesn't really contribute to the ability to provide really good and frequent service along multiple corridors. There's just no financial or ridership base to support to justify that level of service. So on-demand is a great way to kind of supplement that. It's a great way to actually increase service availability for customers who might otherwise be stuck waiting at a transfer hub for 60 minutes for up to 60 minutes for a local bus, let's say on a weekend.
So give me a sense of, we know the pilot project is going to start summer of this year, run right through until winter of 2025. Give me a sense of how it works.
So I'm not sure what model we are going to use, but in other cities across Canada and Ontario, like York Region, Belleville, and Edmonton, there are two models of on-demand. The first one is a sort of a route replacement, where they replace underperforming routes with on-demand. Essentially, a vehicle sits on standby at a terminal, and if somebody needs a ride from a certain bus stop along the route, they can request a ride to wherever else along the same route to go to where they need. The other model is kind of a service area, a service area. So that's where it's either you go to a bus stop or you request a ride at your door to a transfer hub in the area to transfer to a mainline fixed service. So in the example of Barrhaven, it'd be like somebody who lives in my ward in a suburban in an area that doesn't have very frequent local service. They can request a ride to Fallowfield Station to transfer to the 75 and head towards the city.
So, and I know this is going to be a really silly question, but is an entire bus showing up for that one person?
While it's a pilot, I imagine so, because pilots are deliberately limiting when it comes to the administrative and setup costs. But most places that have established on-demand services use smaller vehicles, like the transit vans, similar to what we have for paratranspo. So in the beginning, it might be, but as it matures, and especially if we accept it as a permanent service, as it matures, we'll certainly look into using smaller and more appropriate vehicles for that service.
Because I think you'll agree. I mean, my daughter started using the bus when we were living in your ward, actually, and she started using the bus a lot. And she could not get herself to another community. If she wanted to go visit friends in Stittsville, the route she had to take was a bit silly, right? So there's lots of different opportunities here to improve routes and really create that community. Of course, the hubs are really important, where you've got the hub near Algonquin College, and you've got Fallowfield and Bayshore and Carlingwood and that type of thing. But getting community to community is really difficult, and getting within the community is really difficult. How she had to get to the library by using the bus, would have taken her a much shorter time just to walk.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it's kind of great that you moved out as soon as I was elected, but
right.
No, it's true. Like during the campaign, there was a lot of talk about, actually throughout the pandemic and during the campaign, there was a lot of talk about improving kind of that intra-community travel. So somebody who lives on the eastern side of Barrhaven, for example, can easily get to their job at the Costco on the west side of Barrhaven. Right now, it's up to 30-minute bus ride, assuming your connection works out. It's a 10-minute drive, right? So improving these intra-community connections will help incentivize people who really don't want to drive to choose that alternate mode of transportation. Connecting from community to community, that's something that has to be concurrent, I guess, with introducing on-demand and new initiatives overall. Like we've introduced Route 110, which is a Barrhaven to Canada connection, kind of through Old Richmond and Eagleson Road, and that's a connection that's never existed before, right? So as more people talk about it, as there's more demand, I think I'm hoping that we can introduce more of these suburb to suburb connections, or the less traditional connections that Ottawa has just typically not focused on in the past.
And I think you'll agree, Wilson. I mean, we have to try new things. I mean, if this pandemic taught us anything, is the old ways are not going to suit anymore. It'll get to a point where this transit system is costing so much money, but it's not serving the people. People won't use it, right? So we have to start somewhere.
Exactly, and part of innovating is recognizing that there aren't always going to be new solutions, right? Part of innovating recognizes that those new solutions adapt to changes in society. We kind of went through some societal changes in the last 3 years, and public transit has, OC Transpo has not really, I wouldn't say they've adapted very well to these changes just yet, but I'm confident that with the roadmap that's being presented on Thursday, I think, at Transit Commission, that we're finally recognizing and going to start adapting ourselves to these changes so public transit can survive and succeed in the city without being a burden.
Wilson, I really appreciate you chatting with us about this issue. While I have you, can I ask you, Councillor Lowe, about another situation? Can I ask you about rats?
Sure.
Are you seeing? I know when I lived there, a couple of neighbors said that they had found a couple of rats. I certainly never saw them myself, but are you seeing an issue in Barrhaven East?
I've actually seen rats on my my doorbell camera, which is really interesting. But I have had residents who have, it was just one and once, but I have had residents who've reached out about issues in their areas, about whether it's an infestation or they've just seen like 5 or 6. It seems like it's an issue that's always been around, but maybe got worse in the last little while. Part of some of the infestations in my ward are actually due to disasters. So a house did burn down and it's kind of been sitting vacant. Sorry, not vacant, sitting there unused. But I know that staff and bylaw have been addressing that property fairly actively to help address that issue. So. I don't think, it is an issue, and people talked about it during the campaign. This was actually one of those issues that I did not know until the campaign, that the residents shared with me. So it's, based on what staff have told me, the best tool that we can use is education right now, because they've tried baiting, they've tried to, they've tried baiting in sewers, they've tried, actively going out to catch these animals, but sometimes the best tool for this is starts right at the source. It's people who might unknowingly create ideal conditions for these rats in their backyards.
We spoke with a number of your colleagues, of course, on council, and every single one has indicated there's rats in their ward. So we know it's not just Barrhaven, it's not just Orleans. It seems to be right across the region. Thanks so much for your time, as always.
No, thank you very much. Councillor
Wilson Lowe joining us today from Barrhaven East. We appreciate his time very much. From Barrhaven to the Glebe. We're going to be heading in a little bit to speak with Carolyn McKenzie. She is with the Glebe Community Association to speak about Lansdowne 2.0. We're also going to outline some of those free summer activities for kids. The City of Ottawa's got lots going on this summer, which is fantastic. David Pratt is going to join us as well just after the 11 o'clock news. Former Minister of Defense. We're going to be talking about all the issues that are happening in Russia and, of course, in Ukraine. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, June 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 22 degrees, mostly cloudy, feeling like 28 in Ottawa, 23 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Stats Canada reporting that the inflation rate fell from 4.4% in April to 3.4% last month. The report also shows that grocery prices went up 9% from 1 year ago. Now, the Bank of Canada expecting inflation to fall to about 3% this summer. A new report shows that opioid-related deaths among teens and young adults in the province tripled from 2014 to 2021. Researchers from the Ontario Drug Policy Research Network in Toronto saying that teens and young adults are accessing treatments significantly less. Now, fentanyl was found in 94% of those who died from opioids during the pandemic, and that was up 10% before the COVID-19 pandemic. And good news for travelers. Starting today, you can fly directly from the nation's capital to Europe. Air France is starting direct flights from Ottawa to Paris. The airline says there will be 5 flights per week, and the first flight out to Paris is at 5 this afternoon. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I don't think it matters if you live in Stittsville or Orleans, or maybe you live, in Canada or Barrhaven. Everybody seems to have an opinion about what happens at Lansdowne. But if you live in the Glebe, you definitely have an opinion about what should happen with Lansdowne 2.0. Carolyn McKenzie from the Glebe Community Association joins me now. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Sam. How are you this morning?
Good, good. Lansdowne just seems to be kind of like the byword market. Everybody feels like they've got a little bit of interest in that, and in terms of how it's going to look and feel and what purpose it's going to have. We know when Lansdowne was transitioned to the Lansdowne 1.0 that we see there now. Lots of debate about what's going to happen there. Lansdowne 2.0, and I was saying earlier, Carolyn, I've never had an issue where I'm out in the community. I was at Taste for Hope, for instance, and lots of people asking me about what I thought about the new plan. This is certainly causing a lot of debate in this city. How do you feel about Lansdowne 2.0?
Well, Sam, I'm actually really happy to hear you to talk about that and to say that it is getting attention outside of the Glebe. This is really not a Glebe issue. Yes, obviously Lansdowne sits in the Glebe, it's located in the Glebe, but it's a big city project. It's the second biggest project after the LRT. Council is poised to give the green light to a $400 million spend of taxpayer dollars. So I'm really happy, actually, to hear that people outside of the Glebe are talking about it, as they should. And everyone is, I think, entitled to have an opinion on what the future of Lansdowne should look like. So I'm really happy to hear that, actually.
And we know that there's been a letter sent to Mayor Mark Sutcliffe outlining some of the challenges. A number of different people in the community weighing in. We include Paul Champ, a lawyer, Penny Collinette, board of director, lawyer, Joanne Chirinello, of course. Lots of different, Kevin Page as well, and Michael Wernick, all sort of sharing some of the concerns regarding the finance and regarding the governance piece. What are some of these concerns that you align with as well?
Yeah, so this is a group of people who I would say have very strong credentials in the area of transparency, governance issues, what constitutes informed decision-making. Kevin Page, people may know that he was the former parliamentary budget officer at a federal level. He is also an adjunct professor and heads up an institute for fiscal studies at Ottawa U. So when you have someone like him weighing in and saying, look, before this moves forward, we really need to properly understand what's going on, what the track record has been, and what those future very ambitious projections, what is actually underlying those projections, asking those sort of questions and saying, look, let's take a pause, let's make sure that we truly understand what's happening. This needs more transparency. We need the public debate. We need the public scrutiny of all of this before going forward. I think that's he and the rest of the group. Those are people worth listening to. When Mayor Sutcliffe was on the campaign trail, he actually sought Kevin Page's commentary on the platform, his policy platform, his campaign platform, and said, looked for his blessing, in effect, right. Which Kevin did review of and provided. So, I think it's important to understand that if the mayor is looking for Kevin Page's blessing, during the campaign, then he's certainly someone worth listening to. And taking those views into consideration when he calls for transparency and proper oversight of what is, a really important project. And I think the oversight issue and the transparency issue, those are part of the theme that we heard a lot about during the LRT inquiry. So let's make sure we've learned those lessons before this just gets seemingly pushed forward through council.
It's almost that we've become accustomed to a project. I'm just throwing numbers out. I'm not saying they're related to Lansdowne, but we've almost become accustomed to being told a project is going to cost $50 million, and at the end it's $75 million, and we all kind of go, okay, well, we knew it was going to go over. We've all kind of become almost too accustomed to that, and I think it's something that having this conversation at this point certainly is much better than having a percentage of 50% going over when we're actually walking in the building.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I really, there's so many demands on our attention these days, so many issues. So I understand the sort of sense of fatigue that may come with seeing yet another project going overboard. But I know that during the election campaign, of course, there was lots of discussion about where the city should be putting its resources, what the city's priorities should be. Everything from, we don't have enough money apparently to fill potholes, to fix the potholes. Right. I hear from people who live in East and West End and saying, my God, it's taking me an hour and a half to commute into where I need to get to the office downtown or what have you. We don't have enough money apparently to properly fund affordable housing. We're seeing the impacts of climate change and the consequences that we're having to pay for, the city's having to pay for. How are we going to do all of these things? So, during an election campaign, we get into tangible things that really impact on people's lives in the city. But then suddenly, when we talk about a project and a big project, I realize that there's sort of almost people seem to feel disconnected from it, and I understand. While I understand that, I would draw people back to thinking about this is a choice that we will make as a city to spend, something in the order of $400 million, and money spent there means money that we're not spending on projects that are important to, wherever you live in the city, whichever ward you live in the city. I'm sure everyone can think of things that need to get done and that are being deferred, kicked down the road until we can afford to pay for those things.
Mm-hmm. One area that I thought was really interesting, I read the whole letter, but one area that I thought was really interesting is the impact on a new Ottawa Senators arena in the downtown core. What would that mean for Lansdowne? What does that mean for TD Place? And I thought it was really interesting because, of course, one being, I even take for the World Juniors, the fact that, some of the games are going to be taking place at TD Place and some are going to be taking place at Canadian Tire Centre. But what's the impact of having an arena relatively close to an existing arena, an existing venue? Because of course the city, there's only 1 million people. I know you know this, but only 1 million people here to support those. Is it what's the impact to Lansdowne?
Yeah, and that's exactly the way you've described it. That's exactly the question that we're asking. And I've been sort of asked, well, aren't you just kind of throwing out scenarios? So many scenarios is a way to sort of divert the discussion. But I mean. And is that a serious question that we should be asking? Because I don't believe that the city is looking at that. At least city staff, the staff reports, I should say, have made no mention of it. And we're talking about a second, and I would say larger sports and entertainment district likely that will be created once presumably the senators, or if the senators are to build in some downtown location. That's going to not too dissimilar from how when Lansdowne was established, it had the impact on the market was, I think, deeply felt by the market, and perhaps we're seeing some of the issues in the market today are a result of that. But we need to think about that, and I think that is a very important question. And I would suggest that if this was OSEG's money that they were putting into this development, rather than looking to the city to put all that money and taxpayers to put, that is a question that they would be taking very, very seriously, and that if they had to go out to bankers to back it, that their bankers would be asking that same question as well. Mm-hmm. So we should be asking that question.
Well, and to be honest with you, even something, I mean, I know we talk a lot about parking in this city, but even something as parking, as I mentioned, I was at the Taste for Hope, which was at the beautiful horticulture building, and I went in and parked quite easy, but got chatting with some people there about Lansdowne, and they were sort of pointing like that's where the towers would be, and they said, like, I wonder how it would be to be able to come down here and park down here for an event you're going to be at for 90 minutes. I don't think there's a lot of people that, for instance, I live in Richmond. Am I going to take public transit from Richmond to Lansdowne to go to an event for 90 minutes? No, I'm probably going to drive there. So what is it going to look like when all these buildings are built? And maybe not everybody has a vehicle, but it will impact the parking at Lansdowne big time.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's a big concern, that transportation and actually being able to get access to Lansdowne has been an issue from day one. It continues to be an issue. Mark Gowdy from OSEG, I'm not putting words in his mouth. He has said that transportation is the Achilles heel of Lansdowne. It's just a challenge, and a good part of it is just the basic constraints of the site. That site is not on LRT and will not be on LRT in my lifetime, I imagine. Right. It's also not even on a rapid transit route. Bank Street is not a rapid transit route, so it's very challenged that way. And I live in the Glebe, yes, and I can walk to Lansdowne, so great for me. And if taxpayers want to put all that money into new facilities at Lansdowne, it's in a way it's good for residents who can walk there, but it's not that great for residents who live in the east and west end of the city or have other transportation challenges, because it's so difficult to get to. So as part of it, I do think that at least we should be looking at the option of what other locations might be considered. I'm not saying that is a definite solution, but I'm saying that should be something that we look at. And I was very heartened to hear Mayor Sutcliffe just in the last week or so have a similar idea with respect to the senators' location and where they may set up downtown versus LeBreton Flats versus other locations. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really smart bit of thinking to put forward to say, look, let's take a bigger strategic view as to where this should go in the best interest of the city.
Brilliant. I appreciate your time today. Carolyn McKenzie joining us today, Glebe Community Association. I suspect we'll speak again, Carolyn.
Okay. Thanks so much for your time. I really
appreciate your time as well. Noah, I don't know. I've been seeing this incredible story about this athlete, and I had to talk about it today. So I understand that there's an athlete that was performing shot put. So she was, Belgian shot putter, really talented, super talented. But her team would have been disqualified from the 100-meter hurdle if nobody participated from her team. So she is not a hurdle jumper.
Yes.
So somebody that typically does shot put is built very differently than somebody that is doing hurdles.
Correct.
But she did it. She did it because she did it for her team, and she is a hoot. I want to meet her so badly.
Yeah, she seems so cool.
I
and I just want to
know.
add too, hurdle in Olympics is a very tough sport.
Very.
And to watch her kind of great, like you said, she's a shot putter, which are built for upper body muscle, right?
Yeah.
And if you watch her with her grace, kind of just, it even says in the article, I think her career as a hurdler might not be over because she's so good at it.
She is. But I loved the fact she was waving at the crowd.
I know.
She was getting really into it. And she said, I've never been this famous for shot put before. But it just speaks to, I love that part about sport.
Right.
You know, that somebody is like, I'm not letting my team down.
They step
This isn't my, I think it's fantastic.
It's a beautiful story.
It's a beautiful story for sure. When we come back, we're going to find all those fun activities for the kids to do this summer with the City of Ottawa. And guess what? They're free. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Being stuck in your home during this pandemic also means you have a home. Waiting in line for groceries means you have money for groceries. The isolation, being broke and totally scared about what's next. I was feeling that before this crisis. People say we're in this together, but me, I've got no one.
Youth who have aged out of the child welfare system are in danger of falling further through the cracks because of today's crisis. They need your support. Please give today at helpyouthnow.ca.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills access financial aid.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, mums and dads, listen up. Maybe grandma and grandpa, aunts and uncles. What are you going to do with the kids this summer? I'm a mom. I know what it used to be like. Thinking, how am I going to entertain them for 9 weeks? Well, Patrick Fournier is here, portfolio manager with Recreation, Culture and Facility Services with the City of Ottawa. Hi, Patrick.
Good morning.
Lots of parents listening very closely to us about all the great things that they can do this summer with the kids. Give us a sense of what the City of Ottawa is offering.
Yeah, so right now the city is offering play-free drop-in activities. So we have quite a few activities that are listed actually up until the end of the year. And these are activities for children and youth, the ages of 17 and under. They don't pay for these activities, so it's completely free. So that's kind of what we're offering. Right now, for example, we have the Saturday swimming. So public swimming on Saturdays at all City of Ottawa pools is free from now all the way until the end of the year, so on December 30th.
Well, it's wonderful because there's lots of variety here as well. Walk us through some of the highlights.
Yeah, so I mentioned the swimming, but also right now we have our museums that are free. So just to give you a couple examples, so we have our Cumberland Heritage Village Museum. So that's a museum where you get to step back in time to the 1920s and 1930s. So it's a little village, and there's a lot of true to the era reproductions. So you kind of see how people were living back then, and that's only 30 minutes drive from Ottawa's downtown core. We also have the Billings Estate National Historic Site. So that's home to one of Ottawa's oldest community cemeteries, where a lot of the well-known Ottawa pioneers are laid to rest. So that, again, is free right now all the way until September 3rd.
Wow, that's amazing. And I see here as well, a free weight and cardio summer membership for youth is also available. Walk us through this one.
Yeah, so this is in partnership with Tony Graham Automotive Group. So we are offering a free weight and cardio membership for July and August. So those are for youth between the age of 13 to 17. So they need to first come to a facility, do an orientation with our staff, and then we can sign them up for the membership. So that starts next week, right after the weekend. People can start coming in to use that.
That's great. And it's so well laid out here on the City of Ottawa website. You've got obviously east, central, south, west, all laid out with the different facilities within each, and everything from basketball to pickleball to skateboarding and everything in between. So lots of variety here as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned the sports. That unfortunately just finished over the weekend. So that one is not available anymore. But yeah, for 2 months we had free sports like the sports you mentioned, basketball, pickleball, all that. But for now it'll be swimming in museums, and then later in the year, in September, it'll be free skating. So free skating from September 16th all the way till December 23rd. And again, that's at all City of Ottawa rinks.
That's amazing, and all the more reason for parents to check back, right? Because you've got these different offerings throughout the year. So that's wonderful. Kids must love it, and parents must love it too.
Yeah, exactly. We saw a lot of success from the sports that just finished. A lot of people were interested in that. So we're just anticipating more success during the summer with the kids not being in school.
Well, that's wonderful. So are people having to sign up in advance, or are they just showing up?
For the most part, they could probably show up. It does maybe vary from location to location. So what we're telling people right now is to go on to the website of the location they want to go to, because that way they'll be able to see the schedule for the day and what's offered. And then at the same time, it would mention if they would need to reserve in advance. But I don't think it's necessary in most cases.
Okay. Good to know, Patrick. Thanks for sharing all the good news today. Patrick Fournier, Portfolio Manager, Recreation, Cultural, and Facility Services with the City of Ottawa. We appreciate his time today. Hopefully we found something there for you to do with the kids. Of course, Blues Fest is right around the corner. My kid is so excited. She's going to see Weezer. She loves Weezer, Noah.
I'm a big Weezer fan, too. It's honestly one of the main acts for me.
Yeah, so she's really pumped. Are you heading to
Avery
Blues Fest?
Has good taste.
Avery's got great taste.
I have requested tickets from our Rogers Overlords, so if they are delivered, then yes, indeed.
Fantastic. It's always such a big highlight in the city, right?
Oh, of course. And Mark Monahan is great at organizing the event. But last year when I attended, it was my first Blues Fest, and I won't forget it. It was a fantastic concert experience.
It absolutely is. They do it up well. And then, of course, the economic benefits of Blues Blues Fest and the hotel stays and the restaurant stays and just all of that.
Just everything. Yeah.
The restaurant, I know, because you don't stay at a restaurant, but the restaurant.
But even the local vendors there, right? Like you said, the source of revenue for them all is a great summer hit for them. So.
Yeah, fantastic. I don't know if you know, there's a big anniversary coming up.
Is there?
Yes. 2 years of the Sam Laprade Show.
Wow.
I know.
2 years of the best radio in Ottawa.
There you go.
Yeah.
July 5th is the big day.
Wow. Incredible.
Can you believe?
I can't. It does seem, well, I will say, since I've started working here every day, when I'm doing the show with you, it does seem like you've been doing it forever. You're just such a natural.
Oh, thanks.
And the way you're able to cover these stories has always been incredible. So it doesn't surprise me that it's been 2 years.
I appreciate that very much. Well, we're going to be partnering with Blues Fest for the anniversary. It's going to be very, very exciting. We've got, we don't want to tell everybody, but we'll as we get closer, we're going to share all the good details. Yeah.
Okay.
But because, of course, the anniversary is July 5th, Blues Fest starts July 6th.
Right.
So we thought, what a perfect combination. So I know there's still some tickets available for some concerts. I think Shania Twain is all sold out. And I know
so too.
I see on Facebook people going, does anybody have any Shania tickets?
I also saw some people kind of saying the same thing's going to be happening with the Foo Fighters. So
for sure.
To keep your eyes out on that one.
For
too.
sure. It always a wonderful time in our city, and we're going to be celebrating in style July 5th here on the Sam Laprade Show and celebrate our 2 years. We couldn't do it without all of you, so thank you so much for everything you do, tuning into our show every single day. We're getting ready for a really important conversation today with David Pratt, former Minister of Defense. We're going to be talking about what happened in Russia over the last number of days. Of course, a bit of a revolt there. We're also going to be talking about the implications, of course, for the Ukrainian war and lots of different pieces that are happening abroad. So we're going to be speaking with David Pratt in a little bit. And Jacqueline Belsito is going to be here. She's representing the Association of Fundraising Professionals regarding the Philanthropy Awards. And maybe you have somebody that you want to nominate. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
$20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Hi, I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, June 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 22 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, feeling like 28 with the humidex. Here's what's making news right now. A newly anticipated report is calling for the federal and provincial governments to increase competition in the grocery store industry in order to bring down prices. It comes at a time of roaring grocery bills. City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney has the details.
At this time of skyrocketing grocery bills, the Competition Bureau studied the industry and found that the top 3 grocers basically run the market, and their food sales have been growing, with Loblaw, Sobeys, and Metro taking in more than $100 billion in sales and $3.6 billion in profits last year. It does not find, though, that there was any so-called greedflation where they are inappropriately jacking up the prices, but it does say that the cost for consumers could go down if federal and provincial governments increase competition. It wants them to come up with a grocery store innovation strategy, increase supports for new players in our market, including independent and international grocery chains, and to consider accessible and harmonized unit pricing requirements to try and help Canadians compare prices and make better choices. But Michael von Massow, a food economist with the University of Guelph, tells me that's a lot easier said than done.
These aren't going to change our food prices in the next few months. If they have any impact at all, they will be over the long term.
He notes it's incredibly difficult and expensive to start up a grocery business in our country, and even international chains have shown hesitancy at the option of coming to Canada. He said governments would have a lot of work to do to convince them to set up shop. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Now, the inflation numbers are in for May, and they'll give the Bank of Canada a lot to think about when it comes to the prospect of rising interest rates. City's Mike Eppel says the cost of living rose 3.4%, the lowest in 2 years. But that's not entirely reflective of what's going on.
Prices were accelerating rapidly in May a year ago, and prices just aren't going up as quickly right now. In fact, gasoline was a big contributor to the easing of price pressures, down 18% from the price spike that we saw in the spring of 2022. Some things that were going up in price again: groceries up by 9% on a year-over-year comparable. And we're looking at things like bakery products up 15%, cereal up by 13.5%, and prices for food purchased at restaurants rose by 6.8% year to year. So a lot to mull over for the Bank of Canada. Is inflation cooling as fast as it wants, or does it have to raise rates again at its next policy announcement? We'll find out next month and over the course of the next couple of weeks as we get more data points in on the economy. Mike Eppel, City News.
Now, taking a look at your weather for today, here's City News meteorologist Jesse Uppel.
We have much better air quality in the area thanks to wet weather moving through, and we hang on to some unsettled conditions through the afternoon and evening. The chance of showers and thunderstorms continues. A guaranteed high of 24 degrees, a humidex near 31, and winds remain out of the south 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. Later tonight, cloudy with showers down to 17 degrees. Today's guaranteed high 24.
Right now, 23 in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, feeling more like 29 with the humidex. Now, Canada's health minister is in Toronto today to talk about a new ban on cosmetic animal testing. City's Caitlin Lee joins us with the details.
Jean-Yves Duclos is at the Lush factory following the passing of the historic Bill C-47 last week. Amendments to that bill prohibit the sale of cosmetics that rely on new animal testing data to establish product safety or false or misleading labeling. Cosmetics Alliance Canada applauding the move, along with many other organizations, calling it long overdue. The Body Shop North America also thanked the minister for the legislation, saying they've been campaigning for this for over 3 decades. Canada is one of over 40 countries banning or limiting cosmetic testing on animals. Caitlin Lee, City News.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. We know on Friday, June the 23rd, the Wagner Group, a Russian paramilitary organization, rebelled against the government of Russia. We know, obviously, President Putin wasn't very happy about that. We wanted to get caught up today with David Pratt, former Minister of Defense. Hi, David.
Good morning.
David, we were all watching so closely to see how this was going to play out in terms of this revolt against the Russian government. How do you think it went? Do you think this was the plan? Certainly, Vladimir Putin is putting out his spin on it, but do you think this was the plan?
Well, I think Vladimir Putin has created a situation where the Russian people, I think, are, and I think we saw this with the reception of the Wagner forces group in Rostov, that he's created a situation in the country where people are very, very concerned about the Russian losses in Ukraine. And Prigozhin, I think, was trying to take advantage of that with his march on Moscow and his ostensibly what he was saying was that he wanted Sergei Shoigu, the Minister of Defense, and the Chief of the General Staff, Valery Gerasimov. He wanted them to resign for what he saw as incompetence. Now, I think that Prigozhin is mirroring, in some respects, what many in Russia are feeling, that this invasion of Ukraine has gone so badly that there needs to be a major shakeup. And I think Vladimir Putin is, in some respects, collateral damage in all of this, and that his position has been severely weakened by Prigozhin's move. And even the fact that they had to bring in Chechens to confront the Wagner group as they were approaching Moscow is an indication that things are really not operating according to Vladimir Putin's plan.
And we know that Putin obviously spun the whole invasion of Ukraine to his people in such a way that it was going to be over very quickly, and they were going to be sort of one big country, and that the Ukraine people wanted this. I mean, this was the kind of narrative that was given. So we know that spin obviously is wearing very thin, probably wore very thin 30 days into this, and certainly during the conscription as well, David. We know that mothers and fathers were sending their sons as far away as they could. They did not want them to participate in this. Lots of arrests during this time. So I think the Russian people very much are waking up and realizing that probably the direction that Putin has taken this country and the fact that he's invaded Ukraine is obviously wearing thin on the people.
Yeah, I think it's clear that there's a lot of discontent within Russia right now. I mean, the war is 16 months now of steady conflict, of steady news, of losses of Russian soldiers. The Ukrainians are paying an enormous price themselves in all of this for what is essentially a very futile conflict, a needless conflict in many respects. And looking at this in terms of the sort of broader sweep of history, we've seen this happen before in Russia, where there have been failed military excursions. We saw this certainly around the time of the First World War, which is mentioned often in terms of Russian history. And what resulted in the Russian Revolution was really soldiers from the front who were so badly abused by their generals. The losses were tremendous, and they turned their guns on Moscow, and the Romanov dynasty. And, we saw the result then. Now, it's way too early to tell whether or not there's going to be any major upheaval in Russia. But the signs are there that Putin's position has been weakened enormously over the course of the last few months. And, in some respects, you could maybe draw a picture of the vultures circling Putin right now in terms of some of the oligarchs and some of the people who are in positions of power right now who have been keeping their powder dry in some respects, waiting to see what's going to happen. Now, a lot of them, I'm sure, were not happy about Prigozhin, because Prigozhin is really, he was Putin's caterer for a number of years, and then he constructed this private army, the Wagner Group. I don't think a lot of people, a lot of the oligarchs in Russia would see Prigozhin as a future leader. So I think they're waiting to see where the chips are going to fall in the coming weeks and months. And I wouldn't be betting heavily on Prigozhin's survival in all of this. The fact that he's in Belarus right now, I don't think that constitutes a safe haven for him as well. And but I think we're still in the early days of trying to understand the ramifications of all of this.
It's interesting, David, because that's where my line of questioning was going to go next. Is any time we've ever seen this in history in terms of somebody sort of standing up to someone like Putin, they're in many ways never seen again, or other obviously the poisonings we've seen happen and all of those kind of historical situations and instances, we've seen that over time.
Yeah, well, we have seen that definitely. People who are suspected of being, disloyal to the regime are, as the phrase goes, defenestrated. Thrown out of windows from a great height, and those that are lucky enough to get away with their lives typically spend time in prison, like Navalny, for instance, and some of the other Russian dissidents who have spoken up. So this is a very, very repressive regime, and I think it's going to be a test for Putin in terms of how severely he comes down on not just Prigozhin but some of the other leaders in the Wagner Group. And we saw a similar purge with the Turkish president when he faced a significant amount of opposition. There were thousands of people that ended up in jail. So whether or not that's going to happen in Russia remains to be seen. But as I say, I think that we're still in the early days of watching this play out. And of course, on the military side, this creates, I think, potentially an opportunity for the Ukrainians, where there's dissent and where there's low morale in the Russian forces. That could play very, very well for the Ukrainians, because it's clear that the Ukrainian army has a very, very high level of morale at this point. They want to expel the Russians, and this gives them even more incentive, I think, to push hard in terms of their counteroffensive.
And we think about even how the Russian army have dealt with their own deceased soldiers. I mean, it's just despicable, and I can't even imagine it. The leadership, the leadership of President Zelensky compared to the leadership of Putin, and you just, as soon as the invasion happened, Zelensky said, "Listen, I don't need a way out of here. I need ammunition." He was very, very steadfast in his leadership ways, and just to see even what happened over the weekend with Putin, it was, we've got to find another place to go, and it was just so interesting to see how those two leaders were so different from each other.
Well, it's the difference, I think, that you're looking at. The difference is, in Zelensky, we're seeing a true Ukrainian patriot, someone who is personally brave, someone who travels to the front on a regular basis. With Putin, you're basically dealing with a mob boss and somebody who is trying to preside over a criminal operation, in my view. And the difference is very stark at this point. And I think in the final analysis, it's going to play to Zelensky's success in all of this, and Ukraine's success as well.
And how does a country even continue, David? They just never seem to lose hope. They just keep moving through such a challenging time. The loss of life, the loss of infrastructure. They just seem to have this drive to keep moving. What do you think fuels that?
I'm sorry. What was the last part of your question?
What do you think fuels that to keep moving?
Well, I think what it boils down to essentially is values. I think that the new Ukrainian leadership, and I wouldn't have said this 10 years ago, but the new Ukrainian leadership under Zelensky and some of the people that he surrounded himself with, it's all about democracy. It's all about human rights. It's all about the rule of law. It's all about international respect for international norms. And I think that the Ukrainians as a people find that very attractive when they look and see what's happening in Russia next door. I think they're attracted to those values, and they're attracted to that agenda. And I think that accounts for a couple of things, really. The desire of the Ukrainian people to expel the Russians, but also I think it translates into the level of support that we've seen from NATO and from the West generally, because they don't want to, leave Ukraine to twist in the wind in all of this. And that's why the Americans and Canada and, the British, the French, the Germans, and the other NATO allies have provided the level of support that they have. Because I don't think they want to see democracy in Ukraine sacrificed to the aggression of a Russian warlord like Putin.
And do you think the international community has done enough, David?
I think they've done a tremendous amount, we've seen over the course of this conflict a steady increase in the supplies and the types of weapons being supplied. If you go back 6 or 8 months ago, there was talk about should they really be providing Leopard tanks and Abrams tanks to the Ukrainians? Now that's a debate in the past. The tanks are there. And we've seen it more recently in terms of, Zelensky's request for F-16 fighters. And it wouldn't surprise me at all that some of the allies provide the level of training that's necessary for Ukrainian pilots to be able to operate the F-16s that will be supplied, I think, to them. So we're seeing I think a steady increase. The Americans are keeping the flow of material going, and I think there's going to be another. I'm reading that there's going to be another tranche of American material equipment coming tomorrow in terms of Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, as well as Strykers and some other equipment as well. So the Ukrainians are getting lots of equipment. It's a question of how quickly they can get trained and how quickly they can mobilize this new equipment at the front, in order to push the Russians back. So I think we're going to probably see more material coming in the future. I don't think the flow is going to stop, and I think there's going to be even more cooperation between countries like Canada and Ukraine and some of the other NATO allies as far as training is concerned.
Very informative as always, David. Thank you for your time today.
My pleasure, Sam.
David Pratt joining us today, former Minister of Defense. And he used to be a city councillor for the city of Nepean. That's where I met David so many years ago. When we come back, Jacqueline Bell-Cito will be here. We're going to talk about the Philanthropy Awards. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Your visit isn't really necessary.
I'll judge for myself.
I know you're an MP, Miss McPhail, but a woman has never...
I am not leaving till I do. How can such a society be called civilized? If those appalling conditions don't change, that prison will explode!
Perhaps our lone lady member is too fragile to know what is normal in a prison.
Is this normal?
Her courage would lead to the overhaul of the entire Canadian penal system. Agnes McPhail, Canada's first woman MP.
6,423 missing threads.
One for every hate-fueled protest and social post.
From just the first 3 months of 2023.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. I'm Sam Laprade. One of my favorite events every single year are the Philanthropy Awards. The AFP group puts these on here in Ottawa. That's the Association of Fundraising Professionals, where we have an opportunity to all get in a room and celebrate philanthropy in this city. Jacqueline Belcito is a big part of that. Hi, Jacqueline.
Good morning, Sam.
Jacqueline Belcito, of course, wears many hats in this city. One is president of the Sens Community Foundation, also the co-chair of the Philanthropy Awards for this particular year, and last year as well, Jacqueline. I'm still remembering last year.
So yeah, it was a wonderful year last year that my good friend Jennifer Gray from Carleton University and I were lucky enough to co-chair together, and we're doing the same this year.
Wonderful. And we know there's a deadline looming, Jacqueline. We want to make sure everybody knows that they can still get in their nominations.
Yes, the AFP Phil Awards, the nominations are due this Thursday, so there's still time. It's this Thursday at midnight, and you can make your nominations at afpottawa.ca.
And give us a sense of the categories, Jacqueline, because you have a nice variety of categories there. One of my favorite every year, I always bring the tissues for the Youth Award. I always end up crying because they're so inspiring, but give us a sense of all the categories.
Thank you for that. I think it's such a unique opportunity to honor all kinds of different types of philanthropy that is just so meaningful to our community, that just really makes a difference. And, you know, it's the small gestures and the large, the individuals or the groups or the businesses. And so anyone, not just nonprofits, but anyone can nominate somebody like a philanthropic group, or they're somebody they really admire, an individual philanthropist. And as you said, youth are really leading the way in their ability to show us all how it's done by giving back.
Absolutely. I can still picture myself in the room when of course Jonathan Petrie, the late Jonathan Petrie, unfortunately now, but when he spoke, and I think he certainly made an impact so many years ago. I still remember that speech. Lots of other youth, of course, have come forward and shared their great learnings as well through philanthropy. And many times we walk away and they've taught us, Jacqueline.
Yes, I think that's it's the incredible thing about the awards, and I think why it is so meaningful for us to honor those who give their time or their talent or their money, or all three, really, that caring for other people in our community lifts everybody up. And you know, they could be small. You could have a cupcake, a lemonade stand to raise money to help the Humane Society, or you can, you know, ignite a whole community to raise money or go for a walk and make a big difference in healthcare and everything in between.
Absolutely, beautifully said, Jacqueline. The event this year, give us some deets.
Well, so it's a good time to mark your calendar. So November 16th, 2023, it's at the National Arts Center, and they have a new CEO of their foundation. Just happened to, that's a hot off the press, right? It's public news. Mm-hmm. And our sponsor is WCPD Foundation. And the one thing I would say about WCPD is they lead by example in their investments. They help, they make their own donations, they volunteer, they give, they sponsor, and they also help others sort of maximize their ability to give back to the community. Absolutely. It's an event that I look forward to attending every single year, and we'll get caught up again. I'd love to have some of the recipients as well join us here and inspire us all. Well, because Sam, you're hosting again this year, and it is our great honor to have you host the Philanthropy Awards. You bring so much personal passion and experience and warmth to the evening. It wouldn't be the same without you. Oh, you're very kind. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It really is my honor, to be honest. I love being there and getting that front row seat to the good stuff that's happening in the community. Often here on City News, we have to share the bad news, but I love talking about the good stuff, Jacqueline. Absolutely, absolutely. So we don't want people to delay. We want them to nominate. The one tip that I would give nominators is make sure that we're getting those supporting letters, and you've got time, right? It's this Thursday, July the 29th at midnight. We don't want people working late, but you have till midnight. I love it. I love it very much. Thank you so much. Jacqueline Belcito joining us today, doing a wonderful job as the new president of the Sens Community Foundation. She is an absolute treasure in this city, and of course, also on her plate, co-chairing with the lovely Jennifer Gray, the Philanthropy Awards for 2023. Lots coming for you. We want you to lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
This is a man's heart, a heart in desperate need of medical attention. But Because 78% of Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, he may not get the help he needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Hi, I'm Paula Roy, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back into my kitchen for another season of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. My approach to food is pretty straightforward. Fancy is fine, but when you're in a time crunch or have a really hungry and patient family to feed, I say simple recipes made with wholesome ingredients that you probably have on hand are the best. And that's exactly what you'll find on Paula Roy's Favorite Foods on Rogers TV.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, June 27th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now in Ottawa, 23 degrees, mostly cloudy, feeling more like 29. Here's what's making news right now. Inflation took a dive last month, but grocery prices shot up 9% from 1 year ago. Stats Canada reporting the overall inflation rate fell to 3.4% in May, the lowest it's been since June of 2021. Now, satellite imagery showing that smoke from more than 100 forest fires burning in northern Quebec is drifting all the way to Europe. The U.S. Space Agency saying that smoke is drifting across the North Atlantic as well as to other parts of Western Europe, but it's high in the atmosphere and not affecting the air quality like it was yesterday. And the Ottawa Fire Services has lifted its open-air fire ban. The ban was in place for over a week because of the high temperatures. But now, once again, the Ottawa Fire Services has lifted its open-air fire ban. City News Time, it's 11:32. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista for news anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. I've just received a note from Ottawa Fire Services that the open-air fire ban has been lifted. If you ever need an open-air fire permit, you need to contact, of course, Ottawa Fire Services. But this is good news because, of course, they needed to put that fire ban in effect when it was very dry. But, of course, we got soaked yesterday. I got soaked just going from my front door to my car. Lots of rain, of course, in our city. I wanted to have an opportunity today to talk about something that we probably don't talk about a lot, but we should, with Dr. Elliot Lee. Hello, Dr. Lee.
Hi.
Dr. Lee is a sleep specialist with the Royal Ottawa Mental Health Centre. And Dr. Lee, we're going to be talking about sleep. And I feel like this segment is really just for me because I really struggle with sleep, but it really is for everyone. Give us a sense of what you're seeing in terms of new research in sleep patterns.
Oh, we know that sleep is really important for particularly cognitive health and cardiovascular health, but sleep problems have been exploding, in particular in the last few years with the pandemic and all the strains that has put on our lives. And so we're getting inundated with requests to address sleep and sleep issues, but accumulating evidence continues to show the importance of sleep for maintaining both our mental and physical health.
So give us a sense, how many hours do we need a night? Because I've always heard it's 8.
Well, so the vast majority of people need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep to function adequately in the day, but it's not just the quantity of sleep that's important. The quality of sleep also matters too. So if the quality of sleep is not good, then the quantity doesn't become really as important. And then the third element that people need for their restorative sleep is to have sleep at the right time relative to the day. So quantity, quality, and timing. If you don't sleep at the right time relative to your own circadian rhythm, then both the quantity and quality will suffer.
Absolutely. I see some comments here in the research as well regarding napping. Now, if napping was ever an Olympic sport, Dr. Lee, I would serve this country proud because I love a good nap. Talk to me a little bit about napping.
So napping for a lot of people can be helpful if used judiciously and perhaps at the right time. I think probably people are referring to Dr. Paz's study that was just published this month showing a relationship between daytime napping and larger brain volumes, which captured a lot of attention in the media. So this is suggesting that people who have a genetic propensity or tendency to nap might be able to preserve their brain volume better than those who don't nap all the time. So a very interesting and large-scale study suggesting that napping on some level may protect our brain health. But I think as I tried to think about this study more, it's like saying like sugar is good for a cake, and that's great. I mean, we know that sugar can be good for a cake, but it's all in the details, right? How much napping, when to nap, and what the quality of the nap needs to be. Those are details that the study unfortunately couldn't shed light on and probably are most important to people who are thinking about this, but still prove this overall global concept that sleep is probably good for our cognitive health.
I bumped into an old friend in Edmonton recently, and we were talking about work, and he was saying that every single day he has a nap now, that his wife puts something in his home office that he can nap on and close the blinds, and he naps and he feels the best he has ever felt in his entire life. We know a lot of cultures in other parts of the world that's just their daily routine. Are we maybe missing something here in Canada?
So napping can be helpful if done judiciously and properly. For most people, probably a 20 to 30-minute nap in the middle of the day, in the mid-afternoon, may actually be helpful. There's a natural circadian dip in our alertness in the mid-afternoon, at which point naps at that time might actually do provide some restorative function. But if people nap too long, then it actually compromises our quality and quantity of sleep that night. So just to use that sugar analogy for the cake, it's like if you put too much sugar in the cake, then the cake actually tastes bad. But putting the right amount can really make the cake taste good. But that amount that people need to nap is probably different for different people, but there is evidence that napping done at the right time and in the right way can actually be helpful for both cognitive and even cardiovascular health.
And we know many people for various reasons have sleep deprivation. I'm 52 years old, so a lot of women kind of in my age group dealing with menopause are sort of dealing with sleep irregularities as well. Any suggestions there on how we can improve our sleep?
So, women in particular have different challenges for sleep because of menopause. Not only does menopause bring a whole bunch of physical challenges like hot flashes and things like that in terms of sleep, but there's also an increased risk of developing sleep disorder to breathing with menopause. So those are the two main things that we often see in our clinic here for women who are developing sleep problems with menopause. In terms of trying to improve people's sleep, the number one thing that people can do is to try to have a regular sleep routine, a regular bedtime, and most importantly, a regular wake-up time. If that time can be fixed, then that's really helpful for the rest of our circadian rhythms to be anchored to that to improve both the quantity and quality of sleep. Then there are other behaviors that people usually know something about that also are helpful for sleep, avoiding backlit screens before bedtime, avoiding other things that are toxic to sleep like alcohol and caffeine, and then also having a wind-down routine before bedtime. So really try to get rid of work things or stressful things to look at before sleep. That those overall things can contribute to a sense of arousal that can sabotage the subsequent nighttime sleep.
For sure. And I know a lot of couples really struggle. Somebody is a great sleeper and and somebody else really struggles, and that can be really harmful as well for the relationship. Somebody's like, I can't sleep because of his snoring, or we know a lot of people that have those special machines that they wear at night so that if they have sleep apnea. Talk to me a little bit about some of the implications when maybe your partner isn't a great sleeper.
Yeah, so that can be a real problem. It's quite interesting. Usually the partners know about the sleep problem better than the person themselves because they can see all the behaviors. By definition, when we're sleeping, we're unconscious. And so we're not necessarily aware of what kind of problems we're having. And sometimes in our clinic, we actually see that we've got the wrong person in the clinic, right? So one person's complaining that they don't sleep well, but it's actually their partner that's disturbing their sleep. So that's been called the spousal arousal syndrome. So where you're interrupted by actually your partner's sleep, and once you treat the other person's sleep, then both persons' sleep can improve. So definitely the machines you're referring to for breathing problems, some form of sleep disorder breathing, are very helpful and can help save not only the person's sleep but also relationships as well.
Mm-hmm, for sure, it can be very, very challenging. When you're studying sleep, have you really noticed a big change? Let's say in the last number of years. You mentioned off the top that that you're seeing some changes, but what do you think the core cause is there?
So I feel like the pandemic has really changed the way we look at life and do life, depending on job and stress and losing jobs and financial challenges and changing our routine. So we've seen a significant rise in complaints related to insomnia for sleep. I know for the sleep studies myself personally, we've seen a lot more teeth grinding. Like, I can't believe how much grinding we've seen in our sleep studies compared to what we had before. I don't have data to prove that, but just anecdotally, I've recognized that. And grinding teeth during sleep is usually a symptom of stress, but can also be related to sleep disordered breathing as well. So those are probably the biggest things that we've seen in terms of change in the last few years, but we've definitely seen a rise, even the number of referrals we're getting because of how prevalent sleep complaints have become.
Really interesting, Dr. Lee. And what else do you want to share with us today that may help us, head off to bed in a productive way, so we get that good night's sleep, so we're productive the next day?
Well, I think one of the biggest tips I would have is just to not think about sleep. So sleep is a funny thing. The more you think about sleep, the worse your sleep is. So, of course, as I say that, as soon as I say don't think about it, then people think about it. But just as an example of that, for example, try to avoid clock watching. So we know that when people look at the clock, it makes them think more about their sleep. And the more you think about it, the worse it is. Oh, it's 11 o'clock. Why am I not asleep? It's midnight. I'm still awake. Oh, it's 4 a.m. I only have 2 hours or whatever to sleep. That kind of thing actually is toxic to sleep. So to try to get rid of the clock in the bedroom, more and more evidence is accumulating that sleep is a fundamental pillar of our health. So, we always think about diet and exercise as big things for big things for our health. I would actually add sleep to that. So think about diet, exercise, and getting the right sleep to guarantee good health in the future.
It makes sense. I mean, that rest is so vital, and so often that's the corner that we cut, right? It's busy parents, if we've got little ones that are up in the middle of the night, or we've got things on our minds, things that are keeping us up, stressing us at night. It's often the corner that gets cut.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook, but it can be really important. I'm thinking about an old Senators coach that he used to say, "Rest is a weapon." And I actually like that for people to think about. That sleep is also important, and when we cut those corners, there are going to be consequences that people have to take into account for the next day.
Dr. Elliot Lee, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a restful sleep tonight.
Thank you, and same to you.
Thank you so much. Sleep specialist at the Royal Ottawa Mental Health Centre. We appreciate Dr. Lee joining us today. Maybe some tips for you to get some good Z's tonight. It's something certainly I struggle with. I learned lots from Dr. Lee today. When we come back, James Powell is going to be here from the Historical Society of Ottawa. We're going to be talking about a restaurant in Ottawa that you may remember. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough, and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
Hi, my name is Meg, and I'm from Fit Over 50, and this is Fit Finley. I want to invite you to join my upcoming segment, which is focused on hip and knee strength. All you'll need is a chair, and we'll be doing lots of standing exercises along with some seated stretches. Hope to see you there.
Today, I helped a senior find transportation to an important medical appointment.
Today, I helped a new mom find virtual programming so she didn't feel so isolated.
Today, I helped someone understand new government supports.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, every single Tuesday we get caught up with the Historical Society of Ottawa, and one of the representatives come on and tell us about something that talks to our history and how did we get to be the way we are today in this city. And I love today's topic so much because I remember as a little girl, my grandparents and my mom and my dad getting me all dressed up, and we were going to be going for a very special dinner at the Green Valley Restaurant. James Powell is here to chat with us about the Green Valley Restaurant. How are you, James?
I'm great, Sam. I hope you're doing well as well.
I'm doing very well. When I saw this as our topic today, the memories, James, just came flooding back. I can even remember walking in. I can remember what it looked like. I remember everything about it. Why talk about the Green Valley Restaurant today?
Well, it really was a city landmark, a dining landmark in Ottawa for more than 50 years. And it was back about 1947, it was when it really started taking off as a major restaurant. It's sadly long gone, but of course it'd be remembered by, well, you remember it, I remember it, anybody of, let's say, middle age and up will have fond memories of it. It was located on what's now Prince of Wales Drive across from the experimental farm. And you think today, well, that's really in the middle of suburbia. But back in the day, this was countryside. And in fact, Prince of Wales Drive was then known as the Prescott Highway. Notwithstanding its location, thousands made the trek out to be wined and dined at the Green Valley Restaurant. And it was if not, it was certainly one of the best, if not the best restaurant in the city, and had an international reputation. In the 1950s, it was recommended by Duncan Hines, today best known as a brand of cakes put out by Procter & Gamble. But Duncan Hines was an author, and he wrote a book, Adventures in Eating. So it was highly recommended by him. It was recommended by the Automobile Club of America, Diners Club, one of the first purveyors of credit cards, and by Gourmet magazine. It was in fact voted the fourth best restaurant in Canada by readers of American Business. You know, this is not a bad showing for a family-run eatery on the outskirts of Ottawa. And even later, in the late 60s, early 70s, Graham Kerr was the host of an early gourmet cooking show. He was also known as the Galloping Gourmet, which was filmed actually on Merivale Road at the CHO Studios. The show was a huge international success, and it's worthy a story in and of itself. But he was a frequent diner at the Green Valley restaurant, and it's very, perhaps by today's standards, it was not an exciting menu, but back in the day, it had traditional offerings of prime rib of beef, leg of lamb, salmon, trout, scallops, and for dessert you could have carrot cake, coconut cream pie, cheesecake. For the younger ones, you could order the Mickey Mouse, scoops of ice cream decorated with chocolate wafer ears and maraschino cherry eyes. Sunday brunch and was offered there, and indeed it became the place to go for special events, birthdays, weddings, Mother's Day. It really had, though, an unlikely beginning. It started way back in 1933 in the Great Depression, when a man called Waldorf Stewart and his wife Florence built a playhouse for their daughter Miriam close to the highway's edge. Now, the playhouse must have been very attractive because people often stopped and asked if they could rent it for short stays. And so recognizing a commercial opportunity, the couple built 24 tourist cabins called the Green Valley Tourist Court, opened from May to October. They started selling ice cream and hot dogs to day trippers from Ottawa. It was in 1947, though, that the restaurant started to take off when Stewart hired a prominent chef known as Gustave, formerly of the Engineers Club of Montreal, and it was a huge success, and they never looked back. In 1949, the daughter Miriam married a man called Lyle Gillespie, and he joined the family firm, and the capacity of the restaurant doubled to 120 guests, and then again to 225 guests a few years later. A gift shop was added called the Then and Now, and it really launched the business in the top echelon of Canadian restaurants. Sadly, in 1967, the original owner, Walter Stewart, died, and Miriam and husband Lyle Gillespie took it over. The cabin business was closed in favor of the restaurant side. A couple of years later, Miriam herself died, and husband Lyle continued on with his second wife, Linda. And when he died, Linda Gillespie and her brother managed the business, and it really it became part of the Ottawa's culinary fabric. It was also a lot of Ottawa landmark. You might recall each Christmas season, the restaurant decorated a huge spruce tree with 2,500 lights, and it really was a seasonal beacon welcoming travelers to Ottawa from the south. Over time, the land on which all these tourist cabins were located was sold off. Office buildings replaced them, but the restaurant continued on. In 1995, it was finally sold, initially to a lawyer. Nothing changed. It operated in the same name, same menu, same staff, same oldie-worldy feeling. While it was still popular, it began to lose ground to hipper, more modern restaurants downtown, and many people started disparagingly referring to its clientele as the Blue Rinse Set. It was sold again in 2002 and renamed Gilmore's after the pioneer Ottawa lumberman, but it didn't last long. In New Year's Eve 2002, the restaurant was gutted by fire, $1.5 million of damage. The building was a complete write-off. and it was sadly never replaced. And the only thing you can tell that the restaurant ever was there was a blocked driveway on Prince of Wales Road. The driveway is blocked by concrete traffic barriers, and people's memories of a wonderful time that they had way back in the day when it was in its heyday.
I remember that fire, James, as if it was yesterday. I remember that, and just being heartbroken for what the landmark was and all the memories that were there. I mean, my family and I might have gone 5 or 6 times. I remember very early. I graduated from Algonquin College, I guess, in 1991, and I remember a few business meetings. People would say, "Oh, meet us at the Green Valley," and I just thought I was just something else going for lunch at the Green Valley. Yeah.
I remember my father taking me there, and I felt very grown up, all dressed in a tie and a jacket, and it was the place.
It was the place, and I love looking back on these moments because, especially people that are maybe listening to us, James, and they don't know the history of Ottawa. I think these moments are ones that we get to shed a light on how we got to be where we are today.
Well, I agree entirely with you. It's great fun looking back at Ottawa's rich history.
Appreciate your time always. James Powell joining us, the Historical Society of Ottawa. We look forward to getting caught up with lots of their representatives. Ben Wise joins us sometimes. James Powell joins us sometimes. We always look forward to it. So thank you so much to James today. We are getting ready for a very busy lunch today. Laura Peck is going to be here. Greg McEachran's going to be here. We got lots to talk about. If we think about what's happening in Toronto, big election yesterday. We know John Tory had to step aside from his role as mayor of Toronto, which opened up the floodgates. 102 people on the ballot to become Toronto's next mayor. And of course, it was a lot of drama over the last number of weeks as people headed to the polls and voted in their next mayor. The new mayor of Toronto, if you haven't heard, mayor of Toronto, Olivia Chow. Of course, Olivia Chow, her late husband, Jack Layton, the federal leader of the NDP. Really interesting to see how Toronto voted. We're going to be speaking with Laura Peck and Greg McEachran about what they think. We're certainly interested to see what Doug Ford thinks. We know last week, a little bit late in the week, Premier Ford came out and said it was going to be a disaster if Toronto voters voted in Olivia Chow. Well, guess what? They did. So we're going to find out what Laura Peck and Greg McEachran think about that. We're also going to be talking about Lansdowne 2.0. We know that that's obviously causing a lot of debate in the city as well. And we always look forward to our OBJ business lunch, where we talk all things business. We're going to be speaking about the business of baseball with general manager of the Ottawa Titans. And we're going to talk about all of the different amazing events they have going on to attract people there over the next number of weeks. And then we're going to head all the way to Stittsville. We're going to head to Stittsville and speak with the owner of Crave Tacos, Jeff Robinson. Something happened on the weekend, and I want to tell you all about it. So Jeff Robinson is going to join us. You'll want to stay right here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
It was our 35th anniversary. To celebrate, we were on our way to Mama Rosie's, where we had our first date. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and listened. It helped us get to safety. So when I think of our anniversary, because now we have even more to celebrate.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the community billboard.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, June 27th. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, mostly cloudy, 23 degrees, feeling like 29. There's a severe thunderstorm watch for the Upper Gatineau area. Here's what's making news right now. Now, most of the power after yesterday's thunderstorm has been restored, but a check of the Hydro Ottawa outage map shows that there are still small outages in the West Carleton area, the Alta Vista area, and the Knoxdale-Maryvale ward area. Now, power in those neighborhoods expected to be restored later this afternoon. Now, Ottawa police need your help to find a missing man last seen in the Canada area yesterday. Joshua Masson went missing yesterday before 6 in the afternoon. Now you can see a picture and full description on our site at ottawa.citynews.ca. There are concerns for his safety, and if you think you know where he might be, you're asked to contact Ottawa Police or Crime Stoppers. City News Time, it's 12:01 now. Taking a look at your weather for today, here's City News meteorologist Jesse Uppel.
We have much better air quality in the area thanks to wet weather moving through, and we hang on to some unsettled conditions through the afternoon and evening. The chance of showers and thunderstorms continues. A guaranteed high of 24 degrees, a humidex near 31, and winds remain out of the south 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. Later tonight, cloudy with showers down to 17 degrees. Today's guaranteed high 24.
24 right now, mostly cloudy, feeling more like 30 degrees with the humidex. Now, Ottawa police are planning for growing celebrations on Canada Day and say that resources will be stretched this year. City News reporter Chris Curries has the details.
The police chief explained that moving the country's birthday party from Parliament Hill to LeBreton Flats has created additional challenges, but that a scalable plan has been created.
There's no doubt that it is a challenge, to get our numbers. So we are reaching out to our policing partners across the province and the OPP and the RCMP to assist with us, and we're getting that assistance.
Eric Stubb says the number of necessary officers can always be adjusted depending on how many are needed, especially depending on weather. You can expect a larger presence starting on Friday, along with numerous downtown road closures and lasting all weekend. Canada Day on Saturday this year. Chris Curry, City News.
Now, a newly anticipated report is calling for the federal and provincial governments to increase competition in the grocery store industry in order to bring down prices. City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney has the details.
As grocery bills skyrocket, the Competition Bureau studied the industry and found the top three grocers basically run the market, with Loblaw, Sobeys, and Metro taking in more than $100 billion in sales and $3.6 billion in profits last year. It didn't investigate made allegations these chains purposely drove up prices to gain more profits, but rather focused solely on the state of competition. Anthony DeRoche with the Bureau recommends federal and provincial governments come up with a strategy to boost the number of players in the market and increase supports to allow for more independent stores, international chains, and online grocery options.
Attracting new grocers to the Canadian market is one of the key levers that governments have to help bring about lower prices.
But Michael von Massow, a food economist with the University of Guelph, tells me that's easier said than done since the cost to start grocery stores are so immense, even large international chains are hesitant to set up shop here.
These aren't going to change our food prices in the next few months. If they have any impact at all, they will be over the long term.
Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it is lunchtime. What's on the menu for you today? Hopefully you're able to hang out with us here on lunch and pull up a chair because we've got Laura Peck here joining us today, senior partner at Transform Leaders. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi there.
Thanks for being here. Greg McEachran has also pulled up a chair today, Ottawa-based consultant and Liberal strategist. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing great, Sam. Thanks.
Wonderful. Laura, we know obviously very, very big night in Toronto last night. Here is the mayor-elect, Olivia Chow.
Thank you, Toronto. Thank you, everyone. Wow, what a night. If you ever doubted what's possible together, if you ever questioned your faith in a better future and what we can do with each other, for each other, tonight is your answer. Thank you to the people of Toronto for the trust you've placed in me and the mandate for change as your new mayor.
Well, of course, that is Mayor-elect Olivia Chow. Laura, what do you think about the choice that Toronto made last night?
A lot closer than what it looked like, but she did run a very good campaign. I followed it very closely and watched everything last night. You know, she had a formidable person in the deputy mayor, Anna Baleo. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. It was a lot closer than what we might have thought. And so now she has to get along with the premier because municipalities are creatures of the provincial government. And she doesn't have the unilateral authority to make sweeping changes. She refused to say how much she was going to raise property taxes, which created a bit of doubt in the voters' minds, and so the race was closer.
And so interesting, of course, 102 people on the ballot, Greg. That obviously is a bit ludicrous in many ways, but Olivia Chow, of course, coming out on top. What do you think this is going to mean for relationships with other levels of government, including, of course, Premier Ford and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Well, you know, looking at the positives, Olivia has a lot of experience. And, you know, in Ottawa, you know, in recent times, we don't have to look that far back where we saw somebody that was really, really strong in business, but had no political experience and came in and you know, in terms of Mayor O'Brien, and was kind of one and done. You know, politics is a really, really tough thing. You know, I always joke, you know, that the people that go right into cabinet and don't do well. You know, I think of Bill Morneau. You know, it's like converting to Catholicism and starting off as a bishop.
Right.
Well, Olivia has experience as a city councillor and almost a decade as a member of parliament. In terms of the Prime Minister, obviously the Liberals right now have the deal with the support of the NDP to keep governing, and gives us some, time to, every time that there's a budget or a confidence vote, we're not on, biting our nails, finding out whether or not we're going to go in an election. So I think that will, I think that works well. In terms of Premier Ford, he put out, obviously he supported Mark Saunders, had a lawn sign. He didn't support Anthony Furey from the Toronto Sun, which I think, a lot of people were surprised about. And very interesting too, Sam. I think, I was looking at the different teams. I had friends in very different campaigns. So it wasn't, just because she was an NDP MP previously didn't mean that it was only New Democrats that were supporting Olivia. So I think that's a good sign. But going back to Premier Ford, he's almost a liberal in his pragmatism. He's about getting things done. He has his relationship with Chrystia Freeland, pretty good relationship with Prime Minister Trudeau, and, he's smart. The places where Olivia Chow won are places that he needs to win as well if he wants to run again. So I think, at the end of the day, Doug Ford has always shown that he's more about getting things accomplished than he is about, taking shots. Scott Reed on CP24 last night, said that he's a populist, but he's a happy populist, comparing him to, Pierre Bolivar, who said that people would be bonkers to vote for Olivia Chow. Well, if he's going to be Prime Minister, that's going to be tough for him, that the mayor of Canada's biggest city is somebody that he's already called names.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And we know last week Premier Ford came out and he was sharing his thoughts on the upcoming Toronto election. Here's what he had to say last week.
Well, if a lefty mayor gets in there, God help the people of Toronto. We saw it before when Rob was there. Taxes going through the roof, out of control spending, worrying about, lining the pockets of City Hall's coffers. We have a different philosophy. Our philosophy is put money back into the taxpayers' pockets, reinvest into companies, and that's how you have a thriving economy. But folks, I'll tell you, if a left-wing mayor gets in there, we're toast. I'll tell you, it'd be a disaster in my opinion.
And here is Premier Ford today.
I want to congratulate all 100 candidates, or 102, whatever it is, that put their name in the hat. That takes a lot of guts to go out there and put your name out there and go door knocking, putting up signs. That's what democracy's all about. And again, I think the world of Mark, and I just want to wish him all the best in his endeavors. And I want to, again, find common ground with Olivia because people expect that. There's a lot of people out there that live in Toronto. Unfortunately, I wish more people voted, but that's not the case. And we live in a democracy. The people have decided, and I'm going to respect the will of the people, and I'm going to be working with the new mayor.
Now, I have to ask you, Laura, I don't think politicians typically play their clips from one week and then their clip from the next week back to back. But listening to that, Laura, it seems a bit ridiculous, right?
Well, he's being very pragmatic and very magnanimous, and he is welcoming her, and it will add quite the dynamic because they know each other well from municipal politics. And he will be very watchful of how much she's going to raise property taxes because she was not committed to a number during the election, and that was one of the reasons why it was so close. So he is just doing the right thing, the cordial thing. The day after an election, he's just saying you got to hand it to all of these 100+ candidates for even running, and for her to have the resilience to win. And congratulations, and he'll meet her on the battlefield later on.
But I think, Greg, this is some of the narrative that gives people that bad taste in their mouth about politicians, right? I mean, these are the moments we go, well, what did you say last week? And this is what you're saying this week. It can be challenging to kind of take people at their word.
Yeah, I think people convert things to, their own lives, where when they see, government spending, is it necessary? Because in my life, I have to make those choices as well. You don't want to be friends with someone who's telling you one thing one week and a totally different the next week, unless you're on a reality show, I guess. But makes for good drama, but it doesn't make for building a lot of trust. And I do wonder if the lefty mayor thing. I'm not sure Olivia Chow can govern as mayor, completely from the left. That's the reality as well. Doug Ford is not governing from the far right. Despite what the federal leader may be doing or saying, we've seen the New Brunswick premier pull in some far right U.S. style rhetoric around trans kids, and he's lost 4 cabinet ministers, I think. Danielle Smith in Alberta had a rough ride to re-election. So again, I'll hand it to Doug Ford. He kind of picks that middle path, and it's worked for him thus far.
And we know one resident in particular, Laura, was probably, I don't know how he watched the election. I'm assuming maybe by himself in a room watching the TV. But what John Tory would have been going through last night, knowing that he would still be mayor had he not, made the choices that he made, Laura.
Yeah, that's a long conversation that a lot of people were wondering about last night. Where was he? What was going through his process? And I, for one, would really like to do a debrief with him. I've done that with many, many politicians or people who have been through deep crisis, and one learns a lot. Yeah, I wonder what was on his mind, because maybe if he had endorsed Anna Balea earlier on, we might have had a different outcome last night.
Interesting, because a lot of people, even though he obviously made some personal choices and had a relationship with somebody that was on his staff, which is deemed obviously inappropriate, that a lot of people still have a lot of respect for the way that John Tory governed. But Greg, how do you think that this will kind of play out in terms of Mr. Tory? Do we see him sort of go into the sunset and not see him again?
Yeah, I'm with Laura. I'd like to see some data about whether or not his endorsement helped and should have come earlier, or did it hurt? I did see, people on social media, some reporters question about whether or not it was a good idea for a female candidate for mayor to be endorsed by, the previous mayor who had basically admitted to cheating. So it would be really interesting if somebody does a deep dive, as Laura said, on this to see what the impact of it. Basically, do I think that John Tory is a good man? Absolutely. And do I think we need more good people in politics? Yeah. And I think we're going to be facing a challenge. The way that David Johnston's reputation was treated, just the tenor and tone of politics right now. I think, we're going to be facing a challenge for, not just on the elected side, but when people are appointed to lead commissions or things, do people really want to go through that scrutiny?
I agree with you, and I remember hearing about Mr. Johnson's appointment, and I remember thinking to myself, now, what I know of him, and I've had the opportunity to interview him many times, is that if his country came calling, that he was answering the call. But what he has been through over the last number of months, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. When we come back, we're going to come back with Laura Peck and Greg McEachran, and hopefully you. We're going to talk about Lansdowne 2.0. Stay with us on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Online betting is booming. Booyah! Woo! Oh yeah! You could win big! also lose. There is risk with online gambling, and that's a reality nobody's shouting about. Learn about safer play at knowtherisks.ca.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will endeavor to describe the feeling on this ship.
The American ship is just trailing the Blue Nose.
Angus should never have agreed to this last race. She's too old.
Eddie!
The cops are hell your back! Get to it, man!
Appears there's some kind of difficulty.
There seems to be something loose up there, I believe.
The topsail's foul!
I can't see a man.
Just once more, old girl. And you can rest.
She's holding her lead.
Her last race and still undefeated, the Blue Nose out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia was fastest in the world for almost 20 years.
Are you low on food? Struggling to pay the bills? Overwhelmed by life's challenges? When you need support but don't know where to turn, just dial 211. 211 connects you to the programs or services near you.
211, how can I help you?
211. Help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. It's lunchtime. We're feasting on those big subjects that you're probably thinking about. Greg McEachran is here. Ottawa-based consultant and Liberal strategist. Laura Peck is here as well, senior partner at Transform Leaders. Let's talk a little Lansdowne 2.0. We know that big changes coming to that area. Greg, you're down in the glebe quite a bit. Tell me what you think about the plan for Lansdowne.
Well, full disclosure, as we've chatted before, I have season tickets to the Red Blacks. They could start by spending some more money on the Red Blacks if they want bodies to come to Lansdowne. It's been a couple of years since we've had a really strong team. I think we've lost 13 in a row at home, better road record last year. The solution seems to be build more apartments and they will come. And my concern with that is, as far as I know, there's only two ways to get to Lansdowne: Bank Street and Queen Elizabeth Drive, and quite often on the weekends in the summer we have Queen Elizabeth Drive shut down, and I don't see a strong transit plan. So when you start to see big planning like this, you wonder, hey, I've heard this song before, and we were promised a whole bunch. I used to live probably about 5 houses up on Adelaide Street in the Glebe, and I remember, thinking that, yes, Lansdowne needs something, and at the time we didn't have a CFL team, was hoping that they would come back, and that's why I support the Red Blacks. But no wonder people here are cynical, because we've heard this before. The panacea was going to be all these big companies or stores, restaurants that were coming in, and it's not really panned out. So you do start to, wonder whether or not the so-called experts, what kind of, reasons, what are they basing this on? So if people in Ottawa are paying attention, I think you did an interview about an hour ago, perhaps, Sam, with someone from Lansdowne, caught a little bit while running errands. There's a letter that's out from some concerned, prominent people in Ottawa. I think it's only right and fair that we ask these questions.
Absolutely. And that was Carolyn McKenzie from the Glebe Community Association. Here's what she had to say.
This is a choice that we will make as a city to spend, something in the order of $400 million. And money spent there means money money that we're not spending on projects that are important to, wherever you live in the city, whichever ward you live in the city, I'm sure everyone can think of things that need to get done.
Absolutely. And Laura, what do you think about Lansdowne 2.0?
3 big high rises supposed to go in there. Boy, it's going to make it really, really, those people are going to be living with construction for a long time. Now, the retail people, the restaurants, they say they need more people going through there. But boy, that's a lot of concentration of people. Lansdowne, it's a big challenge. It's a huge city asset. I go there for entertainment purposes, but I can see where this is a big problem, especially on game night. Any of us who go to the Red Blacks games or whatever. Boy, it's fantastic. It's exciting and all that kind of thing. But for the residents that actually live in that surrounding area, it's a big challenge.
Definitely a big challenge, and I'm sure some of them might be losing sleep at night over it. Let's talk a little bit about sleep patterns. Are you a good sleeper, Greg?
No, I just when I think I am, my mind tells me differently. I need consistency. I remember when I was Director of Communications for the Liberals in Nova Scotia, not being a morning person, but when the legislature was sitting, you had to have an early morning question period prep. And so every day, I would wake up at 4 minutes to 7 to hear the local commercial radio station news, try to get breakfast and shower, and then hear what CBC was saying at the bottom of the hour, and then get in a cab and run. And then as soon as that was over, I could drop that so quickly.
That's funny.
But it's a tough thing, a really, really tough thing. It seems to be very fragile.
Absolutely. Are you a good sleeper, Laura?
Well, at night I have to do what I call the chill down. And so I cannot talk business at night, ever. That has been a rule for a long time. Now, I can watch a lot of news, which I know sounds weird, but my intake of news and current affairs is very, very high. So I can take all that in. I can get to sleep, but my problem is I wake up and all of my worries come to the fore. My daughter is in Dublin. I'll think about that. I worry about everything in the middle of the night. And then I'm a very early morning riser. I'm usually up around 5:30. I start to work right away. And I totally support, though, the need for better sleep. But, being a mother and having all these children and a dog and all that.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. I've only got one kid, but a couple of dogs, and I'll tell you, we had a sleep expert on a little bit earlier, Dr. Lee from the Royal Ottawa, and he was talking about the importance of sleep, and I thought to myself, I don't know if I've slept well in just about 16 years. My daughter's going to be 16, and I just the other day I got up at 2:00 in the morning because it felt to me like it was 7:00 in the morning. I got up, I did more work between 2 and 5, went back to bed, and I paid for it around 5:00 in the evening that night. But that's not what we want to do. We don't want to be up in the middle of the night working, but I know a lot of people do struggle with their sleep. I hope you both have a restful sleep tonight. Laura Peck joining us, of course, senior partner at Transform Leaders. Greg McEachran, Ottawa-based consultant and Liberal strategist. Thanks for having lunch with me today.
Have a great day, Sam.
You too.
And happy July 1st Canada Day, everybody.
There you go, right around the corner. We appreciate it very much. We're getting ready for the OBJ Business Lunch, where we're going to talk all things business. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, June 27th. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 24 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, feeling like 30 with the humidity. Here's what's making news right now. The inflation rate tumbled to 3.4% in May as price shocks caused by Russian invasion of Ukraine have faded, but economists still expect the Bank of Canada will hike its key interest rate again next month. This morning's report showed that grocery prices were also up 9% on an annual basis, showing little improvement from April. Now, satellite imagery showing that smoke from more than 100 forest fires burning in northern Quebec is blowing all the way to Europe. Now, even though it's high in the atmosphere, it's not affecting air quality right now like it did in Ottawa over the weekend. Now, this also comes as the open-air fire ban has been lifted for the capital. The fire ban was in place for several days. Now, the Ottawa Fire Services still reminding people that they do need a burn permit for any open-air fire. City News Time, it's 12:31. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Business Lunch on City News, brought to you by the Ottawa Business Journal.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, maybe you're looking to take your loved ones out to the ball game. Martin Boyce is going to be able to tell us all about it. General Manager of Ottawa Titans. Welcome to the OBJ Business Lunch, Martin.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I've said it before, you've got the greatest job.
I think so too.
Fantastic. So tell us what's happening, of course, tonight and all weekend leading up to all these fantastic games.
Yeah, we've got a nice string of 6 games in a row here, and every one is a little bit different. Tonight, we're starting off with a bit of a different one. It's Take Your Houseplant for a Walk game. And obviously, you got to water your houseplants, but I think we've got a little bit too much water the past 24 hours or so, but we'll make the most of it. And today's game is a bit special because obviously with the wildfires that are going on in Quebec, and we've all smelt and felt the effects of the smoke, we're donating $1 of all the pre-sold tickets from this game to the Red Cross to support the Quebec fires as well.
Oh, that's great.
So, special one for us.
That's great. And there's just something about baseball, right? And then you add the long weekend in there, and you've got Friday fireworks.
Exactly. And fireworks are fun for everyone, right? That's kind of our motto here is fun for everyone, whether you're 5 or 95. We want you to have a fantastic time at the ballpark, and everyone can agree that fireworks are a big part of it. We've already had a few firework games, and they've been phenomenal. The fireworks team that we have that does them is really good. and we're very excited for another one. We're doing a pre-Canada Day fireworks for us here, and our game on Saturday is at 5 p.m. to allow those after our game to, maybe catch some fireworks downtown even. So it's going to be a fun weekend overall.
It's a lot of fun. And, of course, Canada Day, lots of fun. And I understand you can be and be at the game on Canada Day.
Exactly. Last year we didn't have a Canada game, so we're very excited for this year. Like I said, we're bumping up the start time just by a little bit to allow people to do whatever they want on Canada Day evening after our game, so they can get the best of both worlds, enjoy baseball on hopefully a beautiful day, and then spend time with some family after the fact.
And on Sunday, sorry, go ahead.
No, we'll have just a great Canadian atmosphere.
I love it. And on Sunday, you're partnering with one of my favorite people, Earl Stanley from Stanley's Old Maple Farm. Tell me what this sweet deal is.
Of course, it is a sweet deal. So our Syrup Sunday is, it's just going to be a fun one. Why not on Canada Day weekend celebrate with some syrup? So the first 100 fans that come in will get a free taffy on a stick, courtesy of Stanley's Old Maple Lane Farm. We'll just have some fun with it. We'll have some syrup available at the concession stands, and if you want to put syrup on your hot dog, maybe you can that day, right?
There you go. Lots of fun. How is the business of baseball? Are you happy with the turnout so far?
Yeah, this season has been great. So obviously we're in our second year, and there's lots of growth to do, but we're very optimistic about the future, and it's been great to see some really great crowds. Our home opener was fantastic. We've had great weekends so far, and we're hoping to pick right up where we left off on our last weekend series a couple weeks ago with the Quebec Capitals in town, and looking forward to some big crowds again the rest of the season.
Well, that's wonderful. And we know that Derek Fage, our friend here at Rogers TV and City News, helps you out as well at the games. He's having a lot of fun.
He is having lots of fun, and we're very happy to have him. He's got one coming up on Friday, and then again at the end of the season. It's always a blast to interact with different members of the media and bring a fresh new light to the games. We've got our in-game host who works alongside Derek on those games, and it's a great. It's a great dynamic, and we're super happy to have him.
That's great. And how are you playing? How are the Ottawa Titans doing so far this season?
It was a bit of a slow start, but we've seen some pickup as of late. And the team is always in it, which does help a lot, even when the game doesn't go our way. But there's been a couple of really exciting games, 2 walk-off grand slams so far this season. And obviously some more wins would be desired, but you can't complain about a walk-off grand slam. It really does boost the morale for days to come after that.
Absolutely. And how many games do you play a season? I remember you telling me before, and I just about fell off my chair.
It's 96 games throughout the whole year, and we've got 51 at home this year. So for the players, it's a real grind. For the staff here, of course, when the team's at home, it is as well. But everyone loves it. Everyone has a lot of fun, and we hope to convey that to the fans who come and watch as well.
Well, that's wonderful, Martin. I really appreciate your time today, and very exciting to be learning all about what the Ottawa Titans are doing this season. We'll stay in touch, okay?
Of course, anytime.
Wonderful. Appreciate Martin Boyce joining us today, General Manager of the Ottawa Titans. We know, of course, on Friday as well, our Red Blacks are hitting the field for a big game on June 30th, and lots happening in the city. I know Atletico is going to be playing as well. I believe their next game is July 9th. So lots happening in this city. Nobody can say we're boring anymore, where we've got lots going on. When we come back, I want to go all the way to Stittsville. Have you ever gone to Crave Tacos in Stittsville? We certainly have gone there a couple times, always enjoyed a great meal. Well, Jeff Robinson from Crave Tacos is going to join us in a couple of minutes. You will want to stay here. This is something that a lot of businesses are facing. Nobody's really talking about, but Jeff Robinson's going to talk about it. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills access financial aid.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I heard about something happening in the Stittsville area, and I wanted to get caught up with Jeff Robinson from Crave Tacos and find out exactly what happened. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning, Sam.
Appreciate your time today. I've visited Crave Tacos quite a bit. My daughter and I, Avery, go there once in a while and have delicious tacos. And you're a very busy outfit there in beautiful Stittsville.
Mm-hmm.
And you had an unfortunate incident happen this weekend, Jeff, and I wish we were talking about your delicious tacos as opposed to what we're going to be talking about. Tell us what happened on the weekend.
Sure. On Saturday evening, we had a break-in to multiple doors on the trailer. The perpetrators were primarily after cash, money, and some small assets. They took what they needed to take. They left the trailer opened after hours with broken door, etc., and departed the premise. But luckily, we had a number of cameras on board and other evidence gathering tools.
And so give us a sense, Jeff, for this food truck is once again very, very popular in Stittsville. There's always seems to be a bit of a lineup, which is a good thing for you. And we know that obviously this kind of break-in for a small business owner would be devastating. How are you managing?
Sure. Well, we've got a lot of feedback from the community, which has been great, and the community support us through several different things. So that always helps. You know, this does hurt. You know, even if they take a modest amount of money in order to recover that money, it attributes to a lot of sales, days of sales to sort of recover that kind of money. And I'm sure we'll be able to do that. So we're going to be okay, which is good. Unfortunately, you know, there are some businesses that may not look at it the same way. And in the Stittsville area, there's been a lot of impact over the last while. By my count, this could be well over a dozen food truck break-ins alone. I know of one truck that's been broken into at least 3 times. And we also understand on the same evening, another truck, Jimmy's Waffle, which is fantastic, also got broken into. So this is a recurring theme. And my understanding is it also doesn't stop just at food trucks in the area. So, you know, there's a lot of small businesses in the area. And certainly this is no doubt causing significant impact to the owners, their families, etc.
Well, and we're thinking, Jeff, about Stittsville. I mean, this is kind of a bedroom community. A lot of families living there. It may not be the typical place where somebody would think that there would be all these break-ins. Do you have a sense of, is this a group that's doing this? Is this one individual?
So it seems to be, in this case, it was a group. I can't give much more detail than that because there were minors involved. Certainly there is a lot of minor involvement in the community, but I wouldn't say it's exclusively or entirely minors. I think there's a good mix. But certainly this has been on the rise over time. I think there were some stats that just came out from Ward 6 the other day where crime is up in the, you know, exceeding 30% increase over the last 5 years in this area. There's a spread across violent and non-violent. There's a lot of stats. But certainly there are known issues in the community, and I think that some focus needs to be put on having these addressed. If you're in the Stittsville area, you'll probably see it. I know many people have been witness to it. There's certainly a lot of chatter and talk about it, not only because of this incident, but the number of recurring incidents are being talked about throughout the community. So I'm kind of hoping the city, the councillor, and other people can sort of step up to take a much deeper look at this and see what types of things can be done to better protect the community and the businesses they're in.
For sure. It's hard to hear, and I know you can't go into it, I'm not suggesting we do, but it's hard to hear that minors were involved as well.
Understandably, and you know, we've got a lot of outreach from the community, lots of comments. I think the comments are in the hundreds at this point, and you know, lots of people have lots of different opinions on how this should be dealt with from a criminal perspective and from a business perspective, and what level of accountability should be put in place or they should be held to, and lots of comments about what won't happen. So I've learned a lot through this process about where people stand and where things may or may not go from here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's unfortunate that this is recurring and the conversation is commonplace in the community now.
What a shame, because there are so many food trucks. I think actually that's what makes Stittsville pretty special. There's so many food trucks, and I remember somebody saying to me about your place. They said, you know, have you ever tried Crave Tacos? You've got to go. And I thought you were another, you know, down the way because there's so many food trucks. So this is obviously lots of food trucks experiencing this, and you mentioned businesses as well. What are you hearing from the councillor? Have you had a chance to speak with Glenn Gower?
I've not spoken to the councillor yet. In fact, we're just starting to begin work with authorities. It was an incredibly busy weekend, and we found out about this returning from an event late Saturday night. And ironically, we actually knew about the break-in before we actually returned and before we started pulling video, because the word was already around the community, and there was already talk at a party that it had been done and who did it. So
no.
Ironic that we knew about it before, you know, or everyone knew about it and then informed us through the community. So we are now just starting that process. You know, we want to ensure the best for this community, so we'll participate. We'll provide everything we possibly can. We'll give our feedback. If anybody wants to hear different ideas and thoughts, we're certainly welcome to participate in that. And I know for sure a lot of the local business owners that are part of, there's a local business group and others. I'm sure, the councillor would be invited, police services, bylaw, anybody else would certainly be welcome to come and sit with the Stittsville business owners to understand what's going on, and maybe together we can formulate some additional solutions that will help curb some of this this theft and other things that are happening in Stittsville.
For sure. Because I think about it, the last day was yesterday, I think, or maybe today for exams, and heading into 9 weeks of summer. We don't want to see a summer like this. We don't want to see a summer where you can't operate your business, Jeff, and other business owners can't. I mean, I just think about even the time you're taking to deal with all of this. You're not making tacos.
True.
Yeah. So it's really really disheartening. Have you lost hope, Jeff?
Absolutely not.
No.
When these things sort of happen, it probably more than anything strengthens us. We've always been a company that gives back to the community. So during the Dureco, when the food bank ran out of food, our number one priority was refilling the food bank. When things happen to everybody else, we focus on helping everybody else. This is the first, maybe the second time where we really had to focus on us. So, we sat down, we've had some internal discussions. There's a few things that we'll do a little bit differently. But I think if anything, this gives us even more strength. And I know the community will be there to support us as we've always been able to support them.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Let's talk about something kind of fun before you go. So sure. You make lots of great tacos. I have my favorite. What's your favorite?
Well, I typically will order the trifecta, and those 3 tacos in the combo are the blackened mahi-mahi, the pulled pork mole, which is sweet, and then I'll go with the chipotle beef. But we have 8 different flavors, and those are my 3 favorite in the 3-pack, making up a trifecta.
Well, that sounds delicious. Of course, now that's what I want for lunch. But mine is the chipotle beef. It's my favorite. My daughter loves the cauliflower, and we'll be there supporting you, Jeff. And I'm hoping today we've inspired the community to come out and support you and maybe send a bit of business your way as well.
Wonderful. And we thank everybody for supporting all the great trucks in Stittsville, because I know most of them have been impacted in a similar way. And we love when everybody comes out and turns out and supports all the local trucks and all the local independent businesses as well. So Wonderful. Thank you so much. Beautifully said.
Jeff Robinson joining us from Crave Tacos. So you can find him if you know Stittsville at all. You know the Ontario business site there to get a new license or a new health card. Service Ontario, that's what it's called. Service Ontario, right near there. So that's where they're located in Stittsville. I think it was right beside the Ultramar gas station. So if you want to support Jeff Robinson and try his fantastic tacos during this time where he's going through some difficulties, we'd appreciate it very much. Well, I wanted to get connected today with Amber Costello, Director of Employment Services at YSB. Hi, Amber.
Good afternoon.
Wonderful to be chatting with you today. We're going to be talking about the YSB job fair. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so YSB Employment Services is hosting what we are referring to as a mega job fair on Thursday afternoon from 1 to 4. We're thrilled at the responses we've received. We have 28 employers attending, and to date, we have over 267 job opportunities that they are promoting on Thursday. And we have 249 people who are currently registered to attend. So really looking forward to an event-filled or active day at Employment Services here on Bank Street.
That's wonderful. And so you're making these connections, and you've got some pre-sessions as well. What's that about?
Well, we really wanted to give the opportunity to the job seekers to attend the job fair and be as prepared as they possibly can to engage with the employer. So the pre-sessions are really about what they need to know, how they can be best prepared, ensuring they have all the application tools, and potentially an idea of who's going to be here from an employer perspective and what sectors or employers they would be interested in engaging with to minimize the chaos per se, with that many people coming in to access the event.
For sure. And I have to tell you that I see signs all over the place that say, hiring but yet on all the moms groups I belong to, a lot of people there saying my teen can't find a job. Where's the disconnect, do you think?
Well, I do believe that there was a large disconnect that happened over the pandemic, and I think that what we saw was a lot of people who were, so when you're talking about teens, people leading up to the age of employment, who were excited and anticipated this, the exciting transition into the work world, even at a part-time rate. But the pandemic hitting, it influenced them in a lot of ways. It created a lot of challenges that they had not foreseen. And I think that from a youth perspective, they're now ready, and they're now trying to engage in that workforce and engage with those employers. I think at this point, the employers are still potentially using their historic ways of promoting their availability. So this opportunity, the job fair, creates the opportunity for both the employers and the young people to come to the table in a shared space and have those conversations and begin exploring what those partnerships and opportunities might look like for both of them.
For sure. It can be so daunting to sort of search for those first jobs. I know my daughter, she's 15 and she's working at Saunders Farm, but preparing for the interview, I should say, and preparing that resume and all of that, it can be daunting first time out.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we're here to help with. So we will be offering help with that the day of, as well as tomorrow post the information session. So when someone arrives at the job fair, they will be asked if they have. There's a checklist they have to walk through, right? So do they have all the tools? Are they feeling prepared? They can be led up to our employment service offices on the 7th floor, and we'll help with everything to get them ready to present themselves. As well, we will be hosting a coach's corner, so that will help prepare them, maybe bring down their anxiety levels if they are in need of any types of hygiene products or some coaching on interviewing, anything as such. We will have an area specifically to get them ready, have their feet firmly planted as they present themselves to the employer of choice.
Well, that's wonderful. Is there still an opportunity for people to register or to attend?
Absolutely. So they would just go to our website, so www.ysbes.ca/job fair, or they can call us at 613-236-8244. Again, or register online. So there's many opportunities. They can also walk in at 1355 Bank Street at any time between 1 and 4 tomorrow and come right in.
That's wonderful. Amber, thanks for all the great information today.
And I apologize. I said tomorrow. I meant Thursday.
That's okay. Thursday it is.
We are open Monday to Friday, though, at 1355 Bank Street. We also have a location at 301 Moody Drive, so quite accessible and always open to receiving anybody as they walk in the door.
Amber, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Take
Amber
care.
Costello joining us today, Director of Employment Services for YSB. It's the OBJ Business Lunch, where we talk all things business. Today's business lunch, I really enjoy that, the variety, because we're obviously speaking about young people getting into the workforce, so YSB and their big job fair, which is happening on Thursday. And then we had a conversation, of course, a little bit ago with Martin Boyce. He is the general manager for the Ottawa Titans, so we talked about the business of baseball. Tonight, if you're heading to the Titans game tonight, you want to bring your house plant, because it's take your house plant for a walk night. I'm a plant mom. I could take my house plant. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, Friday, they've got some fireworks. There's a game on Saturday, which, of course, is July 1st, celebrating Canada Day. Lots to keep you busy. Conversation a few minutes ago as well with Jeff Robinson from Crave Tacos. We weren't talking about his delicious tacos very much. We were talking about a break-in that happened on Saturday night. Loss of some money, and this is a reoccurring thing that's happening in Stittsville. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate to see businesses have this kind of loss. The perpetrators were caught on camera, so they will be brought to justice, I'm assuming, at some point. But really sad to see these small businesses be talking about crime as opposed to their delicious food. We're going to be back, and we're going to do it all over again today. I'm going to leave you with our City News team. They work hard every single day to bring you the news of the afternoon. Lock it in to City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.